Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Surviving Adversity. I'm Dr. Adam Millman, also known as the Philosopherdoc. On Surviving Adversity videos, we seek to find people that have experienced certain traumas, adversity, challenges, life-altering experiences, and struggles, but yet found the fortitude to survive, the willingness to survive, and to not just survive, but to thrive. So today we have a very special guest who I've had the pleasure of knowing for 5 years. This is Miss Lucy Jacobs. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today's topic will be different than last week where we spoke with Miss Britt Winter. Today we're going to deal with a woman who experienced more tragedy and more suffering in a month, in a week, and perhaps in a day than most of us will ever experience in a lifetime. I want you to ask yourself, how much suffering do you think you could endure? And if you can take a certain amount of suffering and you could endure, how would you feel if you knew that those around you were also suffering unspeakable suffering? Because you might be able to survive the suffering, but knowing that other people around you are suffering to such an unbelievable degree, that might break you. How do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with challenges? I wanted to give you some insight by Viktor Frankl, Austrian psychiatrist who grew up and experienced the Holocaust. He said that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. The way you process information, your attitude is up to you. You decide. And it's that attitude that enables people to survive adversity. So we're going to speak with Miss Lucy Jacobs. She's going to tell us about her unbelievably harrowing story and how she has touched the lives of literally thousands and tens of thousands of people in America and around the world with her unbelievable story. The triumph of her spirit. The human will has no limits of what it's able to endure and then go on to achieve and survive. So Lucy's going to take us on a journey starting from when she was a child, what she experienced in the Holocaust, and then how she did not give up, but built a successful life with her family, society, with her community, and also economically and professional life. How is it that some people are able to do this and others give up? How is it that some people can survive and not just survive but thrive and others can't? So we'll learn from Lucy's thought process, how she looks at things, the world, and how she processes them, and what can we learn from that as well. So without further ado, I want to turn you over to my good friend, Lucy Jacobs. Lucy,
yes.
Take it away. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, my name is Lucy Jacobs. I'm a survivor in the Holocaust. I was 14 years old when they took us to Auschwitz. And I held on to my mother and my little sister on the other side. Mengele cut me off from my mother's arm. They went to the right and I went to the left. I didn't know where I was going. I was yelling after my mom, "Mom, wait for me." And they were pushing her. And she wound up in the gas chamber. And they burned them. Her and my little sister. I went to the right, and I didn't know where I'm going. Yelling, "Ma, wait for me," crying. All of a sudden comes a man to me, and he was wearing already the striped clothes from the camp. I didn't know who he was, what he was. He asked me, "Mädele, how do you speak?" And I said to him, "I speak Yiddish." He was from Poland. And he said to me, "How old are you, Mädele?" And I said to him, "I'm 14 years old." And he said to me, "No, you are 16 from now on." I said to him, "I cannot lie." He said, "Now you're gonna lie, and I'm asking you to lie because they're gonna take you to work. If you R14, they're going to send you where your mother went, to the gas. So I went and I cried, and I wound up with elderly women that the babies were taken away from them and given to their mothers, and they wind up to go to work. They cut our hairs immediately when we came in. They took us into a room, they sat us down, they cut our hair completely bald with a machine. And they told us to unrobe. And we took the clothes and we tied them up, that when we come back, we could put them on again. But they didn't take us to the same room. They took us through another different room, and we couldn't get dressed. We were naked. They gave us one fits for all, a muumuu dress. And we wind up with that dress and the cold weather, and they took away my good shoes and gave me a wooden clogs, which I couldn't walk in them, but I had to. Then they put us in a line outside in 5, like soldiers, so they could count us. All around was barbed wires. We couldn't run away. We couldn't do nothing. We just had to listen what they told us to do. Finally, we wind up going in the barrack. There was a big barrack, a big long barrack, and we had bunks, three layers. And we all, no blanket, no pillow, no nothing, just in that one muumuu dress, went to bed. Went to that wooden bunk. And during the night, a lot of women gave up their babies. They gave it up to their mothers because they told them to. And they started to cry and a big to do, crying and very big noise. Walks in an SS woman and starts to shoot in the ceiling, so they keep quiet. We all got scared and they kept quiet. So we were going on, not sleeping, but existing in that barrack. In the morning, they did a tzelapel. A bell rang and we had to get out. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. We had to get out by the barrack and stay again in 5 in a line, like soldiers. They were counting us again. I don't know why they were counting us. There were barbed wires all around. We couldn't run away. We couldn't go nowhere. We had to stay outside in the cold weather, shivering, and they counted us again. Then we went in, and they gave us a chicory coffee. I never drank that coffee, black, and that's what we had for breakfast. So we went on. We didn't have no choice, so whatever we drank. I didn't eat for a week, nothing. I was just crying, because I saw the chimney where the flame was going, and I knew that my parents were burning there. And I couldn't eat for a week, nothing, just water. After a week, I got very, very hungry. So I started to eat the junk, whatever they gave. 1 bowl for 5 people. No spoon, no fork, nothing. And we were sipping from that. God forbid if you were sipping a little more, you were yelled. So this went on for a week or 2. Then we were picked for work. We were picked for work. The Nazi came and he made left and right. Whoever went to work went to the left, and whoever went to the gas chamber went to the right. So I made myself like a big girl, and I was picked to work. We were picked to work, quite a few of us, and they took us to change around a water. It was going one way and we should turn it around another way. So we had wooden clogs. We went into the dig and we were digging there the ditches. Finally we finished it and we went back to the barrack. Every day we had the same mush, the same garbage. And we were hungry, so we did it. We ate 5 people from one bowl, sipping. No spoon, no fork, no nothing. And that's how we lived for a while.
Lucy, I wanted to thank you for sharing that with us. It's an incredibly sad, touching story about your parents. If it's okay, I wanted to ask you, because I think all of us have had nightmares. You go to bed and you have a nightmare and you wake up, but you quickly realize that it wasn't real. But for you maybe thought at one point, this can't be real, this can't be happening, being sent somewhere, and then you wake up and you realize that it's real.
Many times I wanted to kill myself. Many times. Many times I wanted to go to the barbed wire, kill myself, because I saw the flames where the people were burning, including my mother and father. So I wanted to commit suicide many times.
Lucy, how many?
But somehow God didn't let me do it.
How many relatives, Lucy, did you lose in the war? Your parents?
Me, I lost my parents, even my grandmother. Then my grandfather lived in America. She didn't want to come, and that's why we didn't came. Because Grandma didn't want to leave her big farm. She was very rich because my grandfather lived in America. He brought out his oldest son, and they lived here, and he used to come home and bring the money, and she didn't want to come because she said it's not kosher enough.
In America.
So
where were you born, Lucy?
I was born in Czechoslovakia. The name was Munkac.
Okay.
And my daddy and my mommy, we were a very happy family. We had our own home, and my daddy made good money, and we were 7 siblings. And I'm the only one left alive. Because God wanted me here to tell you the story, what happened to the 6 million Jews.
Right. Lucy, grab a tissue. So I remember, Lucy, a few months ago when we were talking, you said that you didn't want to live anymore.
No.
And you went to bed that night and somebody came to you in a dream. Can you tell us what happened to you?
Yes, my parents came to me in my dream and said to me, you have to go on. You have to go on to tell the people what happened to the 6 million Jews. If you're not going to go on, they won't know. I am walking from city to city and speaking and telling the people that they never knew what happened. And I am the one, I'm going to be 94 years old. And on the papers, I'm 2 years older,
right,
because that saved my life.
Wow.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
That was good advice. I wonder.
God sent them. I believe in God.
I wonder what happened. I wonder what happened to that guy who gave you such good advice.
I don't know. He was from Poland. Never saw him again. He was like an angel.
That he was.
Never again in my life. He told me to lie and say 16, no 14.
Right.
Told me a few times, don't say 14, because you're going to go there where your mother went. So I started to say 16. Till today's day, I am older on the papers. I was born in July 15, 1928, and on my papers I'm 1926. As long as I live, I'm going to carry that until I live. When I'll die, maybe I'll go back to my real birthday.
I don't know. I don't think anybody should bet against you, Lucy. I think you.
And that's it.
I tell the.
My life was a very hard life. I suffered a lot, and I'm still suffering. I had a stroke, and I'm still suffering in my life.
Sure, because I imagine that events like this that happened to you for so many years, it wasn't you were almost in a car accident or you saw a horrible thing. It was on a daily basis, terrible things, and there wasn't any end in sight. You didn't know when it was going to be over.
No, God saved me wherever I went and wherever I was. He is the savior.
Right.
He saved my life and didn't let me die.
I remember Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist, whose wife perished in the Bergen-Belsen, where I know you were.
Too.
Say that he knew that at some point this would come to an end, and he would go back to teaching, and he would teach people about what happened and how you can survive. He went on to write and publish 39 books, and I've never suffered anything like you or Frank or the others that perished in the war, and those that survived that go on to great things, philanthropy and financial and family success, and they're somehow able to do it. And what I'm interested in, I think what some of the viewers are interested in is what makes Lucy Jacobs different than someone, and of course I'm not by any means criticizing people that were not able to survive emotionally and physically, because how can anyone judge if they're not there? But how does somebody like Lucy wake up every day and say, I'm not going to touch the electrified barbed wire fence and die. I'm going to survive, and I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Now, almost 80 years, Lucy, that the war's been over and you're still going.
I had the willpower, and God gave me in my head, I have to survive and tell the people what happened to the 6 million Jews. Otherwise, we wouldn't know.
You're like a messenger,
right?
And what
that's right.
What I found through the people that I've spoken with and interviewed and through in like clinical practice and internal medicine is that people that seem to survive very difficult situations, they can do it by helping other people, by telling other people their experience, teaching them what they learned, the skills they learned to cope with it, and making other people aware. If it's only focused on themselves and their horrible experience, they're not able to do it. But when they're able to tell other people, help other people, in whatever way, financial or just telling the story, to travel around to, because everybody you tell, even if they told 2 other people or 1 other person, it's going to have such a ripple effect. The people need to be aware that evil is a real factor in the world,
it is
and that
real.
you can ignore it or think it's not real.
I am here a living person, and I have a tattoo on my arm. I was in Auschwitz till the liquidated Auschwitz. The Russians were coming closer, so we were taken out from Auschwitz. I was the last one to get out from Auschwitz because the Russians were coming closer. That was January 1945.
Wow.
And I was still the last one because I was working in the kitchen, and they had to feed some still people that were there. And after that, before the Russians marched into Auschwitz to liberate, they pushed us out on a dead march to walk for days and nights and days and nights in the snow. And some of the people died, most of them. If they sat down, they got a bullet in their head. And we walked until we finally, we got a Red Cross giving us a little bread, and we were told, do not talk and do not ask anything from them. And we were going on. We didn't know where we were going. They put us on open cattle trains where they shipped cattle. And it was snowing. And we wind up in Bergen-Belsen. We came to Bergen-Belsen, and that was a death tram camp. It was typhus. The whole camp had typhus. And unfortunately, I had typhus too. And I was almost dead until I was liberated from the British. The British liberated Bergen-Belsen, and I couldn't lift my head because I was already half dead. But they saved me, they picked me up, and they put me in a hospital. And the doctor said if he cannot save me, he's gonna let me die. He saved me.
Was this the British doctor or an American doctor?
American doctor was there, and he said if he cannot save me, let me die. After that, they had to teach me how to walk.
How much did you weigh, Lucy?
I weighed maybe 60, 70 pounds.
How old were you?
I was already by liberation, I was 15, 16. I was 2 years in camp.
60, 70
16
pounds.
years old, yeah.
70.
And 70 pounds, and I couldn't walk. I was like a skeleton. But unfortunately, God watched me.
Lucy, what did you think when you were marching from the one camp to Bergen-Belsen? What were you thinking? Should I just fall on the ground and die? Should I keep going? Should I step out of the line and then I'll be shot and then it'll be over?
I couldn't think anything. I was like a zombie.
Oh.
My head really didn't work. I just prayed to God. I believed in God, and I prayed to God, please God help me. If you want me to live and tell the story for people that they don't know what happened to 6 million Jews, to tell them what happened.
So already, even when you were a young girl, when you were a teenager, you were thinking, I'm going to tell people about this.
Correct. I did always thought about it, that God should help me. I should be able to tell the people what happened to the 6 million Jews and how I survived my life. So I believe in God. God did His miracle, and I'm here to tell the story.
Did you find that the people that you were surrounded by, they had a similar way of looking at things? Were they angry? Were they optimistic? Were they angry at the Almighty? Were they angry at people?
I am going to tell you something, Doctor. The head was not really working.
Okay.
Our brain was only for one thing, to survive. To survive and to go and see home who's alive, who came back from this ordeal. I didn't know. We were 7 children. I was the 6th. And I didn't know who was alive from my siblings. But I was lucky that I find a brother who came back. And my sister was not in concentration camp, so she came back home. And I was very happy that God made me survive, and I find some siblings. I could not be in our home. I was just walking and crying and crying and crying, and I had to get away from there because I wanted to commit suicide.
After. Not more
No.
after than during.
Right.
Okay.
I couldn't take our home, that I couldn't find my parents there. So my theory was just to go and commit suicide.
But why didn't you? Because of wanting to tell
I
other
was
people?
very depressed because I couldn't find my parents.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you did. But obviously you didn't kill yourself.
No.
You didn't kill yourself because
I did not. An uncle came back from the army and he helped me. He took me away from home because I said I'm going to die here.
Okay.
And he took me away and he treated me, bought me clothes and shoes, and I was naked. Yeah. I came home in a pair of men's slacks and men's shirt. That's all what I owned him. So he really took care of me. It was my mother's youngest brother who was in the Second World War. And he came home and he came to look in our family who survived. And when he got me, I really wanted he should take me away from home because I couldn't take it.
Where did he take you, Lucy? Where? Could tell us over the next couple of years.
Took me to Prague,
Okay.
to the main city. He had already an apartment and he has already had money. And that's how I managed. But I got married. They married me off to a 20-year-old man. I was a little girl. I was only 16 years old. And I got married. On the papers I was 18. And that saved me and that let me get married because we couldn't get married at age 16.
Where did you move after Prague?
After Prague, I moved to Teplice, Shanov, it's called. And there I got married. I was a kid.
Wow.
I got married to a 20-year-old man because I had no home and I didn't have anybody to help me, to support me. I wanted to go back and finish high school, but there was nobody to give me food and to support me. So I just got married and went to work.
Okay.
That's my story of my life.
Well, no, I think, but one chapter of your life. Tell us what happened after. Where did you travel to afterwards? Because here we are in Las Vegas. So obviously.
Well, I lived in New York City.
Okay.
When I came to America, because my grandfather lived here and my uncle lived here and my grandfather's sister's son lived here and brothers. So I came to America from Israel. We ran away from Czechoslovakia when the communism started.
Okay.
So we went to Italy, and from Italy we went to Israel. I was still a young girl, and my husband was in the army, and I was in the army. I had a kid, so I was like in reserve. They won't take me only if it's necessary, if it's an emergency. I have a book, a military book, and it was very hard because we came to Israel. Israel was not Israel yet. It was Palestine in 1948 when Ben Gurion was the president, and there was very few things available. It was not available. Milk and bread and all the necessities. It was not available. So we lived there, hardship. And after that, when Israel became Israel, we were dancing in the streets. That's how happy we were that we became a state of Israel. And we thank God every day that we have our own state.
Wow.
That the Jewish people were not forgotten.
Wow. So Italy, Czechoslovakia, to Italy, to Israel, to New York, or Florida?
Right. New York.
Wow.
New York. First I lived in the Bronx,
Okay.
New York, close to Yankee Stadium. And then I moved to Westchester. From Westchester, I moved to Florida. I was married first time to my older husband. He was a very jealous man, absolutely. We were 20 years apart, 20 years younger. And then he died. He died, I remarried to a man with 4 children. And I raised those 4 children.
Wow.
And it was not easy. 2 mine and 4 his, 6 children.
That's a lot of mouths.
Right. But God is good, and God keeps me going and keeps me here. I should tell my story for people, and they should know what happened to the 6 million Jews.
Lucy, when did you start speaking about your experience? Were you able to speak about it right away? Or did you, I know some people they either don't talk about it at all, or they
It wasn't right away. I started to speak when I came to America.
Okay.
I learned English in 3 months.
Wow.
And I started to speak my feelings and my story. I have a tattoo on my hand. When I got the tattoo, that meant that they won't kill me, that they won't take me to the gas chamber. That was a safety already. Many times my head was thinking to go to the barbed wire and kill myself. But I guess God said no. It's not your time.
Wow.
So that's how I survived, because I believe in God.
Wow. You believe in God? It seems like He may have sent you an angel to save you when you were your first day.
Right.
And then you continue to tell your story about how you survived, and that other people should know.
That's right. A lot of people don't know what happened. A lot of people that I go speaking, they never heard from what happened with the Jewish people. No.
And Lucy, because you've experienced unspeakable horrors with you and your family and friends, I often use your life story for people that are experiencing, I think in comparison would be relatively minor struggles, difficult decisions about things, and a sadness that occurs, their car gets banged into, and you try to put it in perspective about real horrors.
That is nothing.
Right.
That means nothing. I mean, what I went through means a lot.
How do you...
I had a willing. When I wanted to kill myself, God said no. It's not your time.
So for Lucy, other people that are experienced some type of tragedy, even if it's not on the same level, because there really hasn't been an equivalent before, since either, what would you say to somebody that is experiencing some challenge or a loss? What could you tell them with your years of knowledge?
I would tell them that is nothing. They'll overcome anything like that. This what I experienced, this is a big challenge to overcome. Till today's day, I'm still crying in my heart. Every night I go to bed, I say, thank you, God, and I speak to my parents, I have their pictures. It's very hard to accept what happened and what happened to me. Happened to have a stroke in my life and lost 2 husbands. It's very tough, my life. I lived in Florida and my daughter passed away, so I came here because I have a son here.
Right.
And that story is of my life.
All right. Lucy, I really appreciate you for telling the story and for keeping
welcome.
For keeping going when many others would not.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And I'm telling my story all over, not just in Las Vegas, in Florida, but mostly here in Las Vegas. There are people, they never heard anything but concentration camp. So I am going around speaking and telling them the truth, what happened, and they should believe that there is a God, and God is good, and He helps for everybody who believes in God.
Right. I suppose a lesson could be that no matter how bad your challenges are and what your loss is, it is possible to survive.
That is nothing. That
Right.
is nothing. You should always pray to God. You'll survive that.
Right, right.
If I could survive this,
Right.
then you could
Right.
survive anything in the world.
If it's possible for Lucy, then it's possible for me. Whatever small challenges I have,
Correct.
if Lucy can do it, then I can do
That's
it.
right.
And I think that should be. I think that's one important message. Another one is that human beings are capable of unspeakable horrors, but at the same time we're capable of amazing generosity and kindness, and to know that both exist.
Some people are really, really, truly, if I speak, they now start to believe that this happened.
Right.
I mean, they didn't know really what happened. They were going on with their lives and didn't know.
Right.
So I have to tell the people this is the truth.
And that gives you meaning, and that fulfills your need for contribution and to educate people. And the way, Lucy,
Correct.
I mean, I know people half your age that don't speak as eloquently and are not as
I
with
know.
it as you
I
are.
know. I know.
And maybe that's part of it
I
too.
know.
Is
That's right.
you think about it and you speak about it, so your mind is always
That's
working.
why God keeps me here.
I think so, Lucy.
I'm an old woman and a sick woman, had a stroke in my life, and lost a daughter in my life. And it's difficult,
Difficult.
very
Lucy.
difficult.
I wouldn't bet against you, Lucy. I don't think there's much you can't do. I remember a couple times you got sick, and they said, my staff said, Lucy's sick. I said, Lucy survived before there was
I'll
vaccinations.
survive anything.
I said,
As long God wants me here, He keeps me here.
I said, Lucy could take the measles, the mumps, the rubella, the
Anything
polio,
I'll
the typhus.
survive. Anything. I had typhus.
Right.
I had everything in the world. And if God keeps me here for a reason, I should tell the people they shouldn't forget what happened to us.
I appreciate you telling us the story. Hopefully everybody had the opportunity to hear Lucy's amazing story and how she found meaning and found purpose by teaching other people what happened and how she survived. People can learn from that and apply it to their own lives when they have a struggle. And you see when you contribute and you educate and you give more than just to yourself but to other people, when you put the emphasis not on you but on other people, it enables you to survive unbelievable tragedy and then propel yourself even further
Right.
beyond survival, but to thriving. Lucy, successful
Right.
business lady, family. We saw her son just a little while ago, and
I had a daughter who passed away on me. She was born in Israel, in Haifa, and she passed not too long ago, about 10 years ago. And that's how I wind up in Las Vegas.
all right, Lucy,
I lived in Florida.
it was an honor for you to bring us into your home and allow us to speak with you at such an extended period of time. And your story is as harrowing as it is. It's inspirational, and thank you for the opportunity. And
It was my pleasure to tell this story. And this is not a pleasure what happened to me, but to tell now for people they should know.